Welcome to the second video in our cybersecurity series. This series is designed to help you better protect your business, and in today's video we're going to talk about the security threats and security solutions that no one else talks about. Let's get started. The first thing I want to talk to you about today is BYOD. BYOD stands for Bring Your Own Device, and it's a very current trend where employees of a business are using their own devices to access company data. The big risk with this is that those devices may not conform to the company's security policies. For example, they might not be encrypted, they might not have antivirus, and they might not have all the patches applied. This poses a big risk to your data. There's a couple of ways to protect against this. One is by having a policy in place that simply states users are not allowed to bring their own devices. This is fairly strict and fairly restrictive, and you may, as a business, want people to use their own devices. That may just work better for the way that you operate. The second solution is to implement something like Microsoft 365 E3 plan. That gives you control over the types of data that can be stored on certain types of devices. And if a person's personal device doesn't conform to the corporate security standards, then they can't access the data. If it does conform, then they are allowed to access the data. It's outside the scope of this video for me to explain exactly how all that works, but my advice to you would be to speak to your managed service provider and check how they're approaching BYOD and what your options are in enforcing that via a policy or enforcing that via a technical solution like Microsoft's E3 plan. In this video, I wanted to bring up dark web monitoring. You may have heard of the dark web. Essentially, it's an area of the internet accessible only by using certain methods, and there's a lot of really awful stuff that happens there. One of the things that happens is usernames and passwords are bought and sold. For example, if there's a particular product that's breached, a few years ago MyFitnessPal, a fitness app for your smartphone, their systems were breached. All the usernames and passwords on there were taken and sold on the dark web. Now, if those usernames and passwords are also used for the equivalent business networks, your business usernames and passwords are out there on the dark web being bought and sold. This is actually a very, very common way for an attacker to breach your network, and something we've experienced on many, many occasions. We now have the ability to monitor the dark web based on your domain name. So if your company is called avocado.com, we can monitor the dark web for the name avocado.com, and any credentials that get leaked get reported to us. That means we can take action to protect you. This is a really interesting way of protecting yourself, and something that many, many corporate businesses are doing nowadays. It's cost effective, it can be done on a per domain basis, and it's something that should be seriously considered. Ask your managed service provider if they can run a free dark web scan for you today. The third item on my list today is attack simulations. Now, attack simulations are the other side of the coin to user training. With an attack simulation, we simulate a potential attack on your system and see how users respond. And this can then be used to provide further training if needed. I'll underscore the fact these attack simulations should not be used to single out your users and find the ones who are going to be victims of these types of attack, but they should very much be used as an augmentation of your end user security training. A very typical attack simulation would be a phishing attack. How this works is that an email will be sent to your whole user base trying to tempt them into providing credentials, data or passwords. The attack simulation system can then track who's opened the email, who's provided credentials, or who's provided data, or any of the different things that you want to try and find out. It's a very cost-effective way of checking whether your organisation is prepared for an attack. The next thing I want to talk to you about is an offboarding policy. It's extremely common that IT companies are not notified when a user leaves a business. This means that access rights are not revoked and a user still has access to resources even after their employment has ended. This is really risky. So there's two things that need to be done. You need to ensure that your IT team is notified when a user leaves the business, but you also need a policy in place that defines what rights are revoked. Going back 10 years, it would be very common that just by disabling the user's Active Directory account, everything that they had access to would be removed. But nowadays, there's a lot more things that need to be done. There'll be many systems that a user has access to, and all of those rights need to be revoked. Speak to your managed service provider and ensure that a thorough checklist is put together so that when a user leaves the business, all the correct rights are revoked, and it will keep your business safe and secure. The final thing I'd like to talk to you about today is Cyber Essentials. Now, Cyber Essentials is a government-backed scheme that recognises a business as having a certain level of cyber security. The process of obtaining Cyber Essentials is effectively a checklist of items that you have to go through. Some of these are industry standard basic security requirements, and some of them are a little more advanced. The exam itself is about £300 to do directly with a particular governing body, but you will need your IT team's help to go through the exam and fill out the correct information. It's also very unlikely that at present you meet all the requirements, so you may need to implement some extra software or some extra security measures to pass your Cyber Essentials. The reason I'd recommend you consider doing it is when you're pitching for business, a lot of customers are now requiring that their suppliers have Cyber Essentials. We're putting more and more people through that process for that very reason. So it's something I would seriously consider, so that when you do that next sales pitch, if the customer asks you for Cyber Essentials, you've already ticked that box. Thanks for watching today's cybersecurity video. I hope it's been helpful. Do keep an eye out for the next one, because it gives you the only guaranteed way to protect your business from any cybersecurity threat. I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.